Good day, fellas. Welcome to Uncensored Advice for Men. This show's for you guys, and I'm thankful for you. I love you. Today's show, we're going to have one of my friends who's like a sister to me and her husband. Their names are easy to remember because it's Chris and Kristine. And they're going to come and talk about life, about business, about relationships. And Kristine has been in my corner in my business and helping guide me through some things. She's extremely good at operations and structure, which I'm not. And Chris is a phenomenal listener and men's coach. So many times I've learned from both of them and broke bread with them and just enjoyed our time together. So what I wanted to do is let you guys in on one of the conversations that we have today. So Chris, Kristine, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
us.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with Kristine. Kristine, who are you?
Who am I? Well, child of God, right? Wife, mom, fearless and fearful leader at times, I would say. Yeah, I just love people, fascinated by people.
Are you typically introverted or extroverted?
Well, introverted until you get to know me.
And then you let it go?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Chris, who are you?
I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm also a child of God. I'm somebody who is frustrated with mediocrity, and I think a lot of other people are too. And I just want to encourage them to move past it, to fight through it, and that's my goal. That's what I seek to be for other people, is somebody who pushes them past the lie and lets them know that they can be great.
How long have you guys been married? Why don't you give us
Oh, well, it's easy for us. We got married in 2000, so we always know how many years, depending on what year it is. So we'll be 23 years this year.
That's brilliant because I got married in 2009, so I have to like count on my fingers like how long I've been married. When you guys got married, what attracted you to Kristine first? I'm putting you on the spot, but this is your chance to get brownie points or really screw up.
Well, it's I've known Kristine since I'm 12 years old, so I had a lot of practice on what was going to attract me to her. There's many things that attracted me to her. What ended up bringing us together, I think, was the ability to have an argument and resolve it. And the fact that there's nobody on earth that I could be as honest with her than I can anybody else. And I hope that's something we touch on today, because that's important in the sense of, if you can't communicate with the person that you're frustrated or upset or in love with, whatever it is, if you can't tell them everything that's on your mind, you're never going to get to a resolution. So she's that for me. She helps me get to the resolutions because she can listen.
She's the person that you can be the most honest with, right? So I think in terms of marriages, relationships, partnerships, and business, we get this level of communication where we feel like, I don't know if I want to say this because it might offend. It might be used against me. It might, whatever, fill in the blank. So when it comes to talking about things that might be tough, it's great to say, "Oh, I had a great day today, man. Things were great. Here, I made an extra 100 grand or whatever, fill in the blank." But communication is hard when things are harder, when the topics are hard. So Kristine, like in your marriage, let's talk in your marriage first, and then we'll go into maybe some business stuff, because you guys are business coaches and consultants, and you guys do some incredible things as a service for others. But what are some hard things to talk about in a marriage?
Well, I think some of the hardest things, that obviously you got financial things, I think, for everybody. I don't care who you are in marriage when it comes to that kind of thing, or in any situation, those things are tough. But I think really it's the things that you feel disappointment, or that somebody's trying, and then they're just not quite. And I think we both struggle with that. Like when we know one of us is giving it all they got, and the other one's like, hey, I need to bring something to your attention. But I think that it would be really important to preface it by, this is like decades of trust being built over the course of time, right? So you earn respect and you earn the right to be honest when your trust can be proven true. And so I think because we've been through a lot of life, right? Like there isn't anybody on the face of the earth. Yeah, there's nobody on the face of the earth that knows all my things, right? So, I mean, I'm not hiding it from anybody. It's just that he's actually lived out life with me. So there aren't things that have happened in my past or his past where we weren't actually a participant. Not a lot of marriages have that luxury. I think it's kind of like a luxury in some ways. But we don't take that level of trust as something that it just, you earn it by being honest. And when you mess up, you tell them the truth, and you don't let too much time fester between the time you mess up and the time people are really, really they're able to forgive, and when we give them the chance, and I think sometimes making those mistakes and then owning up to it, you actually earn more trust that way, and a lot faster than if you keep it a secret for a long period of time.
For sure. Now let me do this for people who might be watching. Let me just move this mic a little bit so they could see your awesome face. And that was my mistake for setting up the mic that way. So it's so true. When we talk about communication, I think a lot of things, especially in my own relationships, whether it be business or my marriage or even with relationships that I have with other people, is something happens. And then instead of me communicating it in a healthy way, sometimes I just eat that shit, right? I'm going to throw the first cuss word out here, and I'm sorry for cussing for some of the audience who may not like that. But in terms of like, sometimes I just let it sit in an unhealthy way because sometimes I don't know a healthy way to communicate it. Mm-hmm. For example, I'm in a situation with a family member, and I've communicated in a way that I thought was super loving. The observers, my wife, my brother, other people have said, man, you had a lot of grace, you had a lot of love, you did it with patience and such. Yet the receiver still received it in a very poor way. So I was like, man, that was tough for me to even do that. So when it comes to communication, like there's unhealthy ways to bring truth if someone offended you or if someone has something. So what have you guys found, maybe Chris, like what are some things you found in a way to communicate in a healthy way that maybe might offend? I don't know, man, guide us.
So truth can sting, right? And I think that's the part that most people don't like. Nobody likes to hear what you're doing wrong, right? Especially what somebody else thinks you're doing wrong. Unless they're asking for it, of course, right? So if you're bringing it unsolicited, there's always that consequence. I don't know if in this situation it was a solicited opinion you gave, or if you just decided to pull them aside and tell them what you thought. So that could be part of why there was conflict there. I didn't ask you for your opinion. So there's always that. Sometimes people just need to hear hard truth. And not knowing the situation, it's hard to say how you could have went about it differently. But knowing the person that you're dealing with always helps. If you know their demeanor and the way they do react to things. I know if I want to be effective with Kristine, I need to use my pleasant voice.
Do you have an unpleasant voice?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
My
Josh.
unpleasant voice is the voice that I always want to use, right?
Give it to me. What is
Right.
the unpleasant voice?
That's where you're hot,
do
and
that, don't do that.
and you start to boil a little bit, and you're saying what's on your mind, and you've just had enough. But that's where we're unproductive, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we come in. That's the idea of what we do. Call us, get that off your chest, so you can go talk to whoever you are, like a rational human being.
Sure.
Right? Because that's the problem that we have, is that by the time we speak, because we do bottle it up, or we do the thing you said, you eat it. And it's good if you eat it, if you can swallow it. If you can't swallow it, don't eat it. Get it out. Right? But you have to be able to express it in a way that, is loving, but is heard. Because so often we just say words, and that's all they are to other people, is just words, because they're not being heard. Because the way we're expressing them. And that's a challenge for all of us, because we're not all the same. And we see it on the road all the time with road rage, right? It's not that the people are wrong. That guy did something wrong, but the way you went about it, he felt threatened, and now it turned into this. It escalated into this, right? So it's not that you're wrong. It's the way that you're handling it sometimes. So that's where we come in. We try to help you navigate the I don't want to say proper, but the cohesive way
Productive.
to the productive way to get your point across. Because sometimes just getting it off, it feels good for you, but it doesn't solve the problem.
For sure. For sure. What about you, Kristine? It looks like you had something to say or add to it.
Repeat the question so I make sure I answer it
Yeah. So
correctly.
what's a when it comes to like a healthy, you said unsolicited. In this case, it was unsolicited. The other person could dump their stuff and say everything, but nobody asked me, Josh, what's your thoughts on it? They just said, blah, they threw it unsolicited. So I said, fine, here's my unsolicited, and mine hurt. And, I was okay with receiving theirs, but I don't think that they, so it was one of those things. So, but like when it comes to communication with someone that you love or called to love, right? It's challenging when you found like in a conversation with you and your husband, and you want to talk about something, but hey, this is hard. What are some things that you've found helpful to communicate to him? He uses his gentle voice with you. What about you?
Yeah, no, there's a whole other checklist that I'm using when I want to talk to him about something. And it's not necessarily because he can't handle it. It's just because I want to get the best possible outcome, right? So it's very infrequent. But I mean, anybody, this about me, anybody who knows me knows it. I'm very intentional when I choose to speak. And so there's always this sense of, right, like as a race, right, we have to try to level up with our emotional intelligence. And so if we have something to say to somebody that could potentially be hurtful or helpful or whatever, right, some truth that we feel compelled or called to share with them, we've really got to figure out who that person is and how they receive information well. Right? So if that's the case, whether it's your situation or me talking to Chris or whatever, I know that the best way to reach Chris is making sure there's no interruptions during the conversation, because he's going to want to have a dialogue with me about it. Making sure that he doesn't have someplace else he's got to go or be. Just making sure the atmosphere is right, because I know for him, the second we get interrupted by a kid, or the second somebody stops by or a package is delivered or whatever, right? So it's like, we don't want that interruption. We want to deal with it and finish it. So I'm usually saying, hey, what's a good time? So that would probably be I'd really like to talk to you about something. When would be a great time for us to talk about it?
For sure. It's seeking permission to talk about maybe a hard topic, a hard subject. And the name of this show is Uncensored Advice for Men. It originally was going to be Unsolicited Advice for Men, because I just wanted to be able to sit behind a mic and just throw stuff out to dudes, whether they asked for it or not. And what I found in my research and in some early conversations was nobody likes unsolicited advice. Advice has to be earned through trust and time and trials, time and time and time and time, right? Time is spelled love, right? Like that. And I changed the name to Uncensored because for me as a dude, man, I've learned the hard way that I don't want any more watered down truth, man. Like I want, if I'm asking you for advice, I want the real advice and get it out uncensored, get it, whether it's right or wrong, I might take it or not. But when it comes to the advice of the unsolicited, you said you seek permission. You ask about timing, make sure the atmosphere is right, use your nice tone, make sure that there's all these things are set up, right? Because that what you're doing is you're setting the stage for a conversation where I think a lot of people, especially keyboard warriors out there, will just throw shit at people. There's a second cuss word. Will throw unsolicited stuff at people that maybe they didn't ask for, not welcomed, not wanted. Now there's a fight. Now let's talk about business, right? Like we started this in conversation in marriage. What about in business, man? Sometimes it's hard to have a tough conversation with a business partner. especially because you guys specialize in working family businesses, right? So you might have husband and wife working together, right? So there's many times where, man, I would love if my wife worked with me, but at the same time, man, I'd rather sleep in the same bed than have those kind of conflicts, right? So, but there's some families who work together and they figure it out. I don't know if I could do it. What have you guys found in terms of a husband, wife working together in a family business day to day? You guys are doing
Who
it.
wants to answer that question? You want me
For
to?
me, it's knowing my place, right? This is Kristine's gifting, by far way over mine. There's no doubt about that, especially when it comes to businesses. I am not corporate minded. As a matter of fact, I stay out of the business side of it. I'm more on the personal coaching side of it. My attitude is if you're miserable at work, then you should quit and go find something else to do. And most of our businesses wouldn't want that coaching their employees, right?
That's where Kristine goes, okay, I'll take it
I
from
was
here.
like,
Right?
That's not
Josh, cut the
productive.
mic.
Right. But that's my attitude in life. If you're not happy, find something else to do because life's too short. You only get one chance at this, right? So if you're not happy, speak up. Find something that makes you happy because this is your only shot at this life. You're not getting a second chance. There's no redo. So and that's what it comes down to. So for me, when we're talking about whether it's business or personal, if you're going someplace every day and you're giving your heart to it and you don't feel like you're receiving the same in return, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it to yourself? What are you doing it for? Is it only to put a roof over your head and food on your table? Because God will provide that for you. He promises it, right? The birds of the air, right? They all have what they need. We will have what we need. We just have to do our part, right? We go to work. He didn't say we had to do that particular job. He never said that to us. So what makes you happy? What is going to get you where you want to be? And is going to be harmonious for everything in your life, right? Because if you're not happy going to work, you're certainly not happy coming home. I'm sorry I tapped the table.
It's okay. I
I'm
cussed
like,
twice.
no. Yeah, but I mean, just coming from a like, we're partners, right? So we're partners in marriage, we're partners in business. So the balance of even just being in a marriage and business partners at the same time is not easy. And I certainly would not recommend it unless you are pretty solid maritally, because I would say, I mean, it has definitely caused a lot of need for challenging conversations that have to be really well thought through, right? Because we do think about things entirely different, right? Just so his response of like, you don't like it, go figure something else out, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what's causing you to not like it? And now we figured out, what you say is causing you, and we're going to go 5 times deeper to figure out what actually is causing you to not like it. So is it the job, or is it you, or is it circumstantial, or whatever? And so we just approach things differently. And so the challenge, and like, I mean, always have, always will, right? Like I think in most successful marriages, it's because they're different people. So you put the two different together and you make something really cool that's whole. So I learn a lot from him, but the balance of working with your spouse or any family member for that matter, but in our case, a spouse, think long and hard because it's hard. It's hard, but we're doing it.
It's hard to turn it off.
Well,
It's hard when
Yeah.
the day's over to turn it off and just be.
Yeah, I've had to say, I need to just be your wife right now, or, like, hey, I'm speaking as your husband. This is what I'm saying. I'm not speaking as a business partner. So we've had a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of that. It's all
Do
good,
you
Joe.
have like a hat that you put on? Like,
Oh,
okay, I'm
gosh.
putting on my CEO hat. I'm putting on my.
No, I usually walk out and then come back in as if it's.
Oh, okay.
A fresh start.
Nice.
So I left the job and now I'm home.
Got it. And she's like, "You forgot to clock out. You gotta
Yeah,
go back."
right.
Do you like his beard? I really do.
I do very much.
Yeah, it's-
I'm a fan of facial hair though, so
Yeah, he's got a good beard.
he always does.
If we shave that off right this second, like
I don't have 2 chins. I checked a couple of months ago. I grew
Okay.
it back.
Cool. But how long would it take to grow what you have?
If I took it down as short as you,
Yeah.
probably like 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, you got
I'm
time.
not. Yeah, I don't know what's up with these kids nowadays where they could grow it in a week. I don't know what's up
Yeah,
with that.
man.
But
It's
Yeah,
in the
we've got
milk.
a
It's
we've
in the
got a
milk and
couple
chicken.
kids on the soccer team that puts Chris's beard to shame, but
and they're 15.
they're 15
Jeez,
years old. Yeah.
Louise. All right. So, back to the communication things, because I think communication is one of the things that I struggle with most, because I forget who said it, but like, people are hard. I forget the exact way they said it, but like, life would be easy if it wasn't for people. But on the flip side of it, like, I'm extroverted, so I need people, and I struggle with proper communication. So I need them, but sometimes in my uncensored way, or the way that Josh shows up, sometimes that intimidates people. It shocks me because I'm 5'8", like, I'm not this big dude or whatever, but like, I can intimidate people, and it weirds me out. Like, I don't know how, but I have a hard time expressing in a way that is, especially for warrior dudes out there, the guys that I work with in the fire department, the police, the SWAT, the ninjas out there, the warriors, right? Like, I could talk, and but for everybody else, like, I've got to use different tone, different words, different things. I struggle with that. So when it comes in the business world, here we go. We put on the business hat. Business Josh is in. Man, I need help with that. What are some resources that you guys have come across or created even to help set proper communication in the business world?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer it in a minute, but
Okay.
I hear you. And so you're probably, I don't know, decade ago at this point, I would get really, really good at work at getting people to tell me what they were thinking or what was going on. And then I was left with somebody really exposed and not know what to do. And so I ended up having to go back to school. This is the truth, right? So it's like I took tons of social work classes, behavioral sciences, the whole gamut, because I realized that if I can't level up my emotional intelligence to meet my, intellect, right? Like my technical skills, I have to match it with emotion. And so that's like the heart of everything that we are and what we do. And so some of the tools we have, it could be like a workshop, right? So it could be DISC. We have a lot of programs on DISC in the workplace, so it may take on a different shape. And a lot of times we customize the theme of it based on whatever is actually happening inside the organization so that they are able to like put it to use right away, right? So we want to teach. DISC is kind of like, if you know, like Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, all those kind of behavioral analysis type things. It's about as basic as it gets. So it's, it's solid, like 80-85% accurate based on the assessment results. But what's good about it is it gives something easy, right? So it's like when you walk out of the program, your team knows what to be looking for when they look at people, how to change and adapt themselves, how they're perceived, right? So a lot of it is just like understanding yourself a little bit better. Because like once I could understand, my team would say all the time, like, "Are you angry?" I'm like, "No, I'm just thinking." Like, no, that's just processing. Like, there's nothing angry about it. I love you guys. But like once I became aware of the fact that I would get like that resting face, we'll just say, I won't say it all the way, but like that face that looks like I'm angry, or I would walk in and not say hello to anybody because I didn't want to interrupt them because time is so precious and I didn't want to be rude. But really what they were saying to me, I found this out in a 360 review of myself, that they were actually hurt that I didn't say good morning and they thought that I didn't care. Right. But that wasn't the case at all. But until I solicited, I went ahead and asked for, what do you guys think? What can I do better? How can I serve you well? Right. So we have these assessments we could do for teams. We have workshops we can do, but we can also help them surveying their people to find out, like, what do they actually want? And the truth is too, if there's something broken in your organization, I promise you somebody in there knows how to fix it. right? Like you could hire us to come in and I could give you a list of all my recommendations. All that's true. But the reality of it is the better ones are going to come through talking with your team and finding out what they think is better. And so there's got to be an intentionality on your part to want to communicate better, because it takes a while to learn how to do it. So those are some of the things that we do to help people communicate better.
For sure. You gave an instance of, team members that you guys were supporting and managing, and some team members want to be acknowledged and, hi, it's good to see you, and why are you upset, right? Like all these things that might be running through the employee's brain throughout the day is somehow chipping away at productivity, right? Like if they're thinking about that, it's hindering them from thinking about their job at hand. So when we have healthy communication and when there's a healthy symphony, or you called it, what'd you call it? Melody of what?
Harmony.
Harmony. That's a great word. When there's healthy harmony, then people could work on the mission together. What are some signs and symptoms within an organization that things are out of harmony, which is probably costing money?
Yeah. Well, the biggest cost is turnover, right? So
Sure.
that's the most expensive. If you've got turnover and some more turnover, not only is it costing you, it could be tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on your organization. But you also lose the history, right? You lose all of that wisdom that came when the people actually built the processes or created the system. So turnover would be your first indicator. Your second indicator would be things like gossip or whispers or, that kind of drama in the background. So you may have a team that's been there a really long time, and maybe you don't have a lot of turnover, but you have a lot of unproductive conversation going on. So that would look like complaining about clients, right? That drives me bananas, because like they trust you, they bring their business to you. What an honor that is. And when I hear it burns me up. I can hear Chris's breathing. Like that probably gets me more than anything, is talking bad about your staff or talking bad about clients. If I want to call myself every word in the book, that's cool. But I'm not going to call you every word in the book unless I'm like, hey, here's some unsolicited advice, Josh.
For sure. Lost wisdom, turnover, gossip, whispering, right? Like these are signs and symptoms of unhealthy harmony within the business. Now, on the coaching side, for the men specifically that you work with, what does that show up? So family business, husband and wife working together, and then they call you up, they unload on you because there's a lack of harmony. But what does that look like in that dude's life if they don't figure out that harmony?
Chaos, complete and total chaos. And when I get that phone call, that's what it is. It's unloading of just however long of the mounting it's been since the last time you got to unload, right? And like Kristine was talking about gossip and stuff like that. When you're doing that, when you're going and you're telling everybody else but the person who you think is the problem, all you're doing in that situation is looking for validation. You're not looking for a solution, right? So if you want solutions, you have to go to the source. You have to go to the problem, which means you have to grow a set, right? I mean, for lack of a better term, you really do. If you're fearful of, and I'm going to say it again, something that's not true, right? None of these people own us. If they're our bosses, none of us own us. If we're the boss, we don't own anybody, right? God has blessed you with these people who come to your place of business every day, and they work for you to help achieve your goals, right? And they're only coming there to do it because they want to achieve goals themselves too. But they've chose your goal to be the catalyst to reach their goal. So you guys should be working in harmony together to make sure that you both achieve your goals, right? And when that's a one-sided relationship, it becomes a bitter relationship.
For sure. People can feel used. They can feel taken advantage of or whatever, because you said it, you have to work in synergy to accomplish the mission of the business, but also with the perspective of how do I help this employee accomplish what they want out of life.
Yep.
And if not, then you're a tyrant. You're a dictator with a dollar as the whip, right? In family businesses, and I love talking about family business. I grew up in the family business. I grew up on a construction site with dad. There was many different challenges, but one of the challenges that I saw for me was this idea, and maybe this is a little off topic, but like this idea of keep it in the family. And we had this business, and there we tried to do it all ourselves. We tried to learn it all ourselves. You know, like we didn't reach out to organizations like yours for help and support. We're like, we'll figure it out. Like every bit of money should be, you know, like, but like at what point does what are the pain points when a company reaches out to you, Kristine, and they go, we're broken. We've been trying to figure it out ourselves. There's lack of harmony now in the marriage, and the marriage is falling apart. And if we don't fix our marriage, we're not going to fix our business because we built this thing together. So they reach out to you at some point, the family business, and they go, we can no longer keep it in the family and do it ourselves. We need help. What's that phone call look like? What does that email look like? What does that outreach look like?
Well, it can look a lot of different ways. It typically is a phone call, right? Because the truth is nobody wants to admit to this stuff. So, you know, like I almost want to be like, if you're listening right now, just make a phone call, because the truth is the more you try to protect and, you know, put a shield around or collect all the money or keep it within the family or not tell the trade secret that nobody's going to figure out, right? Like the more you do that kind of thing, what's actually happening is you aren't growing anybody, including yourselves. Right. And so it's typically a phone call that comes in a state of distress. Not always. But in your situation that you're talking about, yeah, that would be my friend told me to call you. We don't know what to do, and I'm at my wit's end. What it would be even more productive is if they picked up the phone and called before it got to that point.
When it's at the wit's end or at the end of my rope or at that's when things get dangerous in terms of like, that's when really poor business decisions can be made. Yeah. And that's when it gets really expensive. And, you know, like it breaks my heart when I see like a family that's built something together and it was really exciting. And then husband and wife have a split. So now you're splitting employees, you're splitting business assets, you're splitting all this stuff, and this business that could have been a blessing to many is now you have to figure it out, and that's tough. For situations where, you know, in the family business, because you know you guys are good at that, really good at that. For family businesses, what are some things that they can do for, and this could be a topic that you guys are doing really well in, but it could also be a little bit controversial. But so I'm going to go there. Is for don't be nervous. We'll go there.
I know we're both squirming.
For family business, but where the female's in charge, where the woman is the CEO. And Chris, you said I know my place. This is her gifting and this and that, but not every guy is as secure as you are. But from your perspective, like, what are some tips that you have for maybe other women who are leading a family business and their husband's a part of it? What advice do you have for those women? Because we do have some women listeners, even though this is a show for men.
Sure. I'm going to tell you right up front. And yeah, it might be controversial, but I also know my place, right? So before I am a business owner, before I am, you know, anything having to do with my work world, I'm his wife. And so that relationship is more important to me. This whole thing could blow up tomorrow and I'd be like, sayonara. You know what I mean? Like there's only one Chris. And so I think as long as you, and I don't mean that for men to like pull rank in their house and say, oh, you know your thing. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't work.
I go with those phone calls too.
Submit. Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, no. No, but you gotta just have priorities, right? Like your priority for us, right? God's at the center of our marriage. So when we don't know what to do, we're like, okay, Lord, like we're doing our best, we're trying our hardest. We still don't know what to do, so we wait on you, and we'll just keep trying our best in the meantime. But the advice is be the wife and the mom first. Your time is precious, like our boys are all grown now. So it's really hard to look at them as adults. One is almost an adult, legally, but he's probably more of an adult than the other two. But I mean, it's just crazy. It goes so fast. And, you know, having been the number 2 in charge of a company and then going back to work after my third son was 3 days old, I made that choice. Nobody forced me to make that choice. Nobody, there was no gun to my head. There was no, you're going to lose your job if you don't. I put the thought in my head of, I don't want to be obsolete. And I want to make sure they know that I'm serious and I take my responsibility seriously. So 3 days old, it's my third child. So I was good at it at that point, but gosh, I missed out and so did he. And so I would just say, just prioritize your roles. Because even though, yes, this is, like it was what God provided me with and the skill set that he provided me with that started this, Accompany Suite, it isn't without a whole lot of mistakes before I got to today. So I'm glad you asked that question because it's good to remind myself of some of the things I have chosen to do. But I think we put a lot of pressure, women in general, right? Because, your listeners might all feel differently about this, but we're still, women in general are still up against things like thinking you're worth less than you actually are, taking a hit pay wise because you just want to, you want to prove yourself, you want to get out there, you just want the opportunity. And then I'll show them and then I'll make up for it. But the reality is you're no less valuable. You're no less anything. You're equally, doesn't matter if it's man or woman or whatever. But that would be the advice, is just priorities. Don't wait until your kids are adults before you find them. That's what I did. But they all forgive me. So they don't know any different. But, and they, they're great kids. But I would say I missed out on a lot trying to prove myself when my work was proof enough. I didn't really need to do anything extra.
Sure, Chris. I think as men, we're always trying to prove ourselves too. So it sounds like we're all just out there trying to prove ourselves. Is that something?
To whom?
That's the good question. To whom? One might say to myself, but I think that's bull crap. I won't. Oh, all right, I'll say bullshit, right? Like that. I think that
You can't help
like
it.
I can't help it, man. That's why I created an uncensored show. This is my release. But like I think that we say we're gonna prove it to ourselves, but that's not really what we're trying to do, man. We're trying to Instagram reel it like, hey, I want people to feel that I'm important. I want people to see that I'm successful. We're trying to prove it to others. The people who aren't even looking at me, I'm trying
Nobody's
to prove
looking. Nobody's looking. And that's the biggest lie that we believe. That's the biggest thing that holds us back. You know how many of us think about, well, if I try this, everybody from high school is going to come out of the woodworks and say everything that I ever did bad. They got their own crap going on. They could care less about what you have going on, but those
Or
are
do they
thoughts that are in the
remember?
back of
Who
our
cares?
head,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes I'm dealing with young kids and the stuff that they believe, man, it's crazy, and I remember one time I looked at I think he was 15 or 16 years old, and I said, you ever had a girlfriend? He's like, no. I said, well, one day you're going to have a girlfriend and you're going to call her and she's not going to answer the phone and you're going to think she's with your best friend. She's here, she's there, she's doing that. I said, and she's probably just taking a poop, right? But
Girls
the
do not
crazy
poop.
things that we do in our heads, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
And she's doing her makeup, she's doing her hair, whatever.
Yeah.
The crazy things that we make up in our heads as humans when
for
we
sure.
don't get an instant gratification or an instant reply or instant anything,
For sure.
where we're not patient. We don't wait on the Lord. We don't wait on anything anymore. We want everything now. And that's not reality. Reality is we need to work, we need to push, and then those things come to us. That's reality. That's how it's always worked. And it's I got to tell you, it's never been different. If you read any books, if you go back in time, I've read Marcus Aurelius. In Marcus Aurelius, he says, some people say, I need to get away for the weekend and get to the country or go to the beach. Thousands of years ago, right? It took them like a month to go to the country and get to the beach, right? So they were taking time for themselves. They were doing it. thousands of years ago, they were having the same problems we have today, right? And they didn't take a weekend sabbatical because a weekend sabbatical didn't even get you around the corner back then, right? You had to walk for days and days and days to get where you had to go. If you were blessed enough to have a donkey, you got to ride a donkey. But that's not the reality today. Today, we tell ourselves that we can't do this because what? Because somebody made up some bullcrap that's not true. And it's shackled us.
Yeah.
It's tied us to the seat that we sit in every day at work. It's strapped us to things that aren't real. So whatever that is, that lie that you have in your head that's keeping you where you don't want to be, the next step is yours. And that's the big thing here. That's the big thing with everything that we talk about, is that, are other people responsible for the way you feel? Maybe. But the fact that you're still there is 100% you. You are the only one that can change that situation. Whether it be you started the conversation or whatever it may be, it might be that they say, you know what, get out of here. I don't want you here anymore. But at least then you know. At least then you're not living in misery anymore or assumptions.
Yeah.
You know, remember when we were a kid? Assuming makes an ass out of you and me, right?
Bingo, yep.
Yep, and it still does to this day, right? Just because kids don't know the sayings that we grew up with anymore, it's all true. It's all true. And we do it all the time. We assume things that aren't true because we're too afraid to just ask or speak up.
Yeah.
Kristine, what's your favorite song?
So if I'm jamming in the car,
Yes.
My family will tell you it's Africa, right?
What is that?
Down in Africa.
Toto.
Yeah,
Toto,
yeah.
yeah.
It's the
Secretly, it's the
70s or
California
80s song or
Raisins, though.
something like that. Yeah.
That is true. He did buy me the California Raisins record, and I was loving that.
So, as we were talking, and I threw a crazy question in there, but as we were talking, I was watching both of you, and when it comes to like the passion of the work that we do, right? We have different passions, right? Single mission, different passions, different skill sets to accomplish that mission. Let's just say we had a genie and we rubbed the genie's lamp and we could accomplish one thing through the business, through Accompany Suite, to serve and help men of the community. What's that one thing, Kristine, that you would be like, looking back, you'd be like, man, we accomplished it together? What's that one thing?
For men, I would say, well, and this would hold true for women as well, that we helped restore families.
Yeah.
It's a generational impact, right?
Yeah.
That's why we go to the workplace, because we know we can reach more people in the workplace than we can in any church or club or, you know. But that's why we're there, because that's where the biggest stressors lie.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. The biggest stresses that we see, right, like are around money, the financials, right? So you do in a marriage, right? I would say close relationships are super stressful. They can be. So you tie those together, and then you put each other together in stressful situations, dealing with clients that might be a pain in the butt, right? And then you have employees with everybody has a different opinion and such like that. And the stress levels between husband and wife go through the roof. And they could be on mission and they could accomplish something great, or man, it could be catastrophic. For the family business out there, husband's wife, the husband's listening in and goes, you know what? I'm willing to take that next step, like you say, and maybe get some help. We're at a lack of harmony. We're struggling here. We need some help with our business, with systems, processes, organization, people, right? That might not be their specialty. What's a good place for people to connect with you and ask for help?
Well, they can go to the website. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So going to the website, so we laugh about this all the time, so I have to spell it to you. So we're working on that in the background. The operational brain didn't figure out the fact that I needed a bunch of different websites that are spelled sort of the same. So it's accompanysuite.com, ACCOMPANYSUITE.com. Accompany Suite. We accompany you on life's journey with a suite of services. Right. So
sweet. Did you have to spell it like SWEET as well?
We were like, we were going to have like what the sweetest
we had the discussion
thing
about buying all those domains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually this morning. So accompanysuite.com, there is a contact us page. You can go right in there and it'll go, it'll go to me or Becca, and then yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way to get with us.
One of the things that I've heard you say 100 times in our time together today, and then just over the years of knowing you, is your desire for family legacy, the desire for family succession in a healthy way, the desires for families to come together and work and maintain a healthy family. Like, these are the things that are so important to you. Why?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, we've had the privilege of being raised by moms and dads that stayed married. And both of us, Chris and I, both had that. And we've also been a witness to what happens when the family unit breaks down. Especially, Chris does a lot of work with young men. And so, oftentimes, I'll say it, he probably wouldn't, but like becoming like a surrogate dad to them. And by no means is this, Chris's, he wouldn't describe it this way, but having a male presence in your home, it speaks volumes to the future of these boys. And like, we've seen boys come out of, I have one situation. I was in the middle of a battle between two that I didn't realize they both had guns on them, because we just fell in love with some of these kids. And I'm like, oh, don't fight, like getting in the middle of these kids.
Hi, boys.
He showed up the next day weeping because he put me in that position. I didn't know. But it really was all the work that Chris was doing with him, fixing his bike or taking him to school when he got suspended off the bus, or, all these things. And it's like, he today, we'll just say he is serving our country, and it's a really big deal. Like, he's serving the right kind of time, right? Like, he's protecting our futures and things like that. And like, I don't take any credit for that, neither does Chris, but we recognize that when there's something missing in the home and we can help fill some of those for one another, right? Like, not every family is going to have that same story where the parents got to stay married. But if we can eliminate some of the drama and the chaos and confusion by just being honest with each other and learning how to respect one another and communicate well, right? Like, you can still parent well, even if you're in the worst circumstances, you can still parent well. So our kids have a lot up against them, and then our grandkids are going to, like, technology's changing so rapidly, we can't even keep up. And so we've got to keep the basic human foundations of love and guidance and leadership in the home. We've got to keep it strong, because nobody's talking. They're all on their phones, nobody's talking anymore. So that's why for us is we just want to get people talking again, get them socially, able to socialize.
Well, I've met, what I love about the work that you guys are doing, and I've seen the evolution of, being there with Bob and, C12 and all of our friends there, and seeing the evolution of your business. What I love about the evolution of where you guys are at now is it's such a beautiful mix. And with the desire to help family businesses, I know you can work in other businesses too, but like the desire of helping restore marriages and relationships and family businesses, I think that's such a beautiful, a sweet spot. You hear that laugh, guys? I hear that all the time. It cracks me up.
Chris always says, do you think anybody thinks it's obnoxious? I'm like, what? It's like, I accept you the way you are.
Right. It's a cool mix between a consultancy, right? Because you help scale and grow. But it's also like a coaching, counseling.
There's a lot of mentorship that goes on. Yeah, we're not therapists. We are not that. We are all about moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's, if you are running an organization and you want somebody who's been there, done that for a really long time, right? We can work with you on that. If you're a man just struggling with, life stuff, you don't like your wife, you don't like your kids, right? There's somebody here that can help you with that. It could be a kid just getting out of college or going into it. We have a coach for that as well.
So I'll end with this: is Chris and Kristine were coming in the office, and I said, "Hey, Chris, how you doing? I haven't seen him in a while. That last time I saw you, I think you guys brought me a record, which is cool, because I love my records over there.
Yeah.
But I said, man, how's it going? He goes, I can't complain. And I go, man, this is what we're programmed to say. Man, you can't complain because even if you did complain, nobody would listen. You go, no, that Chris said, no, that's my job is to listen to people complain. And I thought about it. I was like, wow, that was pretty powerful. It's just like, that is his job. And I think it's better to do it to a guy that's his job to
Yeah.
complain and listen and give you don't have to go home with this guy, right? Like you have to go home with your wife, but like having a place where you can talk through it and who's going to challenge you, because I know your style you will challenge, and then Kristine will probably give you some tools and resources to how to communicate better with your bride, your lovely bride who you're in business with. But I just thought that was really cool, and I was like, that is neat. There are people out there who it is their calling to listen to us complain for a little bit in a healthy way. My wife doesn't want to hear me complain.
No, she wants to celebrate with you.
Yeah.
She wants to celebrate. So
She
you
wants
can
to
complain
celebrate
or
with you.
celebrate.
You know, and we live in this place now where mediocrity's kind of become the norm, right? And our kids are growing up in it. And it's just the accepted norm. Like everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets this, and it is the reality now. That is the reality. Everybody does get a trophy. But in the end, if you want to be mediocre, that's where you're going to land and that's where you're going to stay. If you want to be great, it takes extra work. It takes trying, right? So if you want to just keep getting up and going through the motions, you're doing it, right? But if you want it to be better, there's a way. There's a way to be great, and it's not really that hard. It's just taking the first step to saying, I've had enough of this.
Cool. Guys, did you have something else to add, Kristine?
No, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Guys, thanks for coming on. Fellow dudes in the audience, love you guys once again. As always, reach out to our guests, especially if you're struggling, if you got a business and you're having issues with the harmony in the business, the relationships, even if it's a family business and you and your spouse are working at it and you're at your wit's end, or you need some help or support, or maybe a place to complain for a minute. Their contact information will be in the show notes below. They're friends of mine, and I trust them. So I encourage you to just reach out to them and ask for some help, maybe some guidance. If you yourself have some advice for dudes out there and you'd like to talk about it here on the show, uncensoredadviceformen.com, fill out a quick form, maybe get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. Love you guys.